Cancers of unmet need are cancers which are harder to treat. Their patients have poorer outcomes. They don't do as well as, for example, patients with more common cancer types. These include cancers, rare cancers, but also includes cancers for which standard of care treatments don't work very well, for example, brain tumors as well as pancreatic cancers. I'm a scientist, and my team focuses on a group of cancers of unmet need known as sarcomas. So these are cancers of the connective tissues. I think being diagnosed with a cancer of unmet need, for example, a rare cancer, is actually a very daunting and lonely experience. So as a patient, in many cases, your GP doesn't know what this disease is. There's not very much out there in the literature. And the challenge is that we don't really understand a lot about these cancers. The knowledge lags behind many of our common cancers, and therefore there are not very many therapies out there for these patients. Even though they're individually very rare, collectively rare cancers represent 20% of all diagnosed cancers in the UK. So that's 1 in 5. Cancers diagnosed every year in the UK. I've had the opportunity to interact and hear experiences from patients towards the challenges they face, and this is really motivating because it tells you what's at stake and really focuses our mind in terms of identifying, making discoveries that ultimately will impact not just patients but also their loved ones. We don't really just want to make better drugs, but we also want to make kinder drugs. So drugs that not only work on tumors, but also improve patients' quality of life. Fundraising is important because it allows us to break this vicious cycle where there just isn't enough funding, there just isn't enough resource into the research, and therefore that has a knock-on effect on not being able to understand the biology of the disease, and have a further knock-on effect on not having new drugs as well as new ways of diagnosing patients. So by injecting resources into research, fundraising will break this vicious cycle and allow us to better understand the biology of these diseases, and which will ultimately lead to better outcomes for our patients. I think the future is very bright. I personally am very optimistic. There's a huge amount of momentum in the field in terms of scientists coming together using next generation tools, multidisciplinary technologies to develop better ways to identify which patients to give existing drugs, but also identify new drugs for these patients of unmet need.